ahead.
Yeah, it's live now. Hello and welcome to Arthat, where we dissect, analyze, and help to find major global stories. I'm Sakshi Shree, and today we are focusing on Japan's vision for a unified Indo Pacific with Quad and ASEAN cooperation. Today we are focusing on uh, the collaboration and the Indo Pacific strategies and how Japan is looking forward with. I'm thrilled to have with us Professor Yoichiro Sato, the Dean of the College of Asia Pacific Studies at Ritsumeikan Asia Pacific University. His major works include Re-Rising Japan and Alliances in Asia and Europe. Welcome, Professor Sato.
Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. First correction, I'm no longer the dean. My term ended as of March 31st, so I'm a free man now.
Okay, my bad. That's totally okay. Okay, sir. So, like India and Japan is also a country, and we are really looking forward that a country which is rich in culture and tradition upholds universal values like freedom, democracy, respect for fundamental rights, and the rule of law. Even Japan's strategic landscape has significantly evolved over the past decade. Recently, the policy documents highlight Japan's commitment to a free and open Indo Pacific. Could you elaborate on what this vision entails and why it is crucial for Japan?
Yes, the first major component of free and open Indo-Pacific is undeniably about the freedom of the sea. And this is rather not new because throughout the Cold War period, Japan relied on safe shipment of oil and gas from Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and North Africa even. So the safe passage through the Indian Ocean and some of the key straits in Southeast Asia connecting to the Western Pacific and through the South China Sea up to East China Sea and Japan was a critical interest for Japan. And most of the Cold War time, Japan relied on the safety of this passage guaranteed by the U.S. 7th Fleet, which is porting in Yokosuka, Japan, and operating in both oceans, Western Pacific and the Indian Oceans. So Japan didn't have to do much, but during the 1980s, the period of kind of re-intensifying Cold War against Soviet Union, Japan started taking part to secure the sea around Japan. And initially, Japan was saying about 1,000 nautical miles from the Japanese main archipelago, southwest way. So that means somewhere around Taiwan to the northern Philippines. So the self-defense force was gradually gaining capability to operate at distant water. And of course, today, the Japanese self-defense force, maritime self-defense force operates far into the Indian Ocean. And currently, there's a new first overseas base in the country of Djibouti. And so Japan's range has constantly extended, and the operations in the Indian Ocean region is pretty much on that trajectory. And I think I should, however, note that the maritime interest in terms of the sea lane and shipping, which is a common interest for all because, the safe passage for trade and commerce activities, Japan benefit from it, China benefit from it, South Korea benefit from it. So it's good for everybody. So it's a question of who guarantees it. And China used to put up with, American guarantee of this kind of a common goods, whereas today China is increasingly unhappy about the U.S. dominance, and China wants to develop its own naval capability to challenge the U.S. dominance and establish its exclusive sphere of influence against the United States. So that is at the bottom of this ongoing rivalry between the U.S. on one hand and China on the other. But Japan's still hopeful that this competition is not going to turn into order of force or power, but rather Japan's aiming at establishing a rules-based order. So the conflict can be managed within the international law, and the safe passage of the sea lanes will continue to be availed to all who need it. It was Abe who started talking about the confluence of the two oceans, and the connectivity of the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Oceans is something he brought up early in the 2000s, and it continues to prove itself right kind of analysis. Today we see a conflict in the Red Sea area, the Suez Canal route. The sea lane there is being threatened by, the conflict in Israel on one hand, and the conflict over the Houthis in Yemen on the other hand. So I think there is a tremendous amount of continuity about the sea lane security. But if I may, I would like to also emphasize that free and open is not only about the maritime security, but it's also about open trade in terms of trade policy, not so much for the security policy. And Japan trades so much with China, and so do Southeast Asian countries and Korea. So Japan is interested in trans-Pacific free trade, and that's why Japan was eager to join TPP negotiations, and Japan was very happy when the U.S. joined, and there was a hope that the region-wide trade will become more free. But the U.S. pulled out, and Japan's also taking part in the RCEP free trade agreement. And within the RCEP, India pulled out in the last minutes. So two of Japan's the prime partners are kind of defying Japan's dream of region-wide free trade. But the U.S. proposed Indo-Pacific economic framework doesn't really have much of a details coming out, and gradually we'll see more U.S. proposals. But there is a tremendous skepticism that the U.S. may use this framework for its own mercantile trade policy, which means that it's not only for containing China, but it also works against U.S. allies as well, and we see some beginning of that in the kind of skewed profit sharing when it comes to encouraging divestment in the semiconductor sector from China, and reshoring production onto the U.S. and so forth. So
That's really insightful, sir. And you have touched upon the semiconductor industry and the economic section as well as the maritime security, which is very crucial these days. Even Japan has contributed to the realization of stability and prosperity in the international community, as you have already pointed out in the earlier conversation. And when we see its approaches towards regional cooperation, it has been a significant thrust, especially with the Quad and ASEAN. How do these collaboration align with the Japan's broader strategic goals, and how do you see it into a long-term strategic goal?
yeah, the Quad actually goes back to the Indian Ocean tsunami. The tremendous, the efforts at rescue and reconstruction took place, and only these four countries turned out to be capable: the U.S., Japan, Australia, and India, with sizable navies and distant water operating capabilities. So from there, the cooperation started growing beyond the humanitarian securities to more traditional securities, and this was made possible not only because of the capabilities, but their shared values in democracy. It's easier for the militaries of democratic countries to work together as opposed to the militaries of some authoritarian countries. And I think this shared value in democracy has a lot to do with this shared trust among the Quad members. And they also coordinate their approach to some of the developing countries in the region in terms of coordinating their infrastructure assistance. And this was very much a counter move against the China's Belt and Road Initiative, some of which turned out to be economically not very feasible, and China has taken advantage of the insolvent recipient governments to repossess strategically important infrastructure in the region, like Hambantota port in Sri Lanka. And this security implication of BRI has been duly noted by the Quad members, so much so that they started feeling the need to counter the Chinese moves. And this is very significant for the Indian Ocean littoral countries, both islands countries and the east coast of Africa, as well as some other South Asian littoral countries of the Indian Ocean, like Bangladesh. And also it's important in the Pacific Ocean, where China is increasing its presence, not only robbing Taiwan of diplomatic recognitions, but also signing agreements to place some military assets onto those islands.
Yeah, totally agreed. Even when you have completed your statement with the China's military capabilities, yes, the China has been rapidly advancing in its military and economic capabilities in a wider range of areas. Even recently, President Xi's statement and the ambition to build a world-class military by 2027, that's the statement coming up from China, is a very huge statement and very intensifying. So China has intensified her attempts along with her aggressive maneuvers in the East Asia and the South China Seas, and strengthening her ties with Russia. How should Japan adapt its foreign policy and the defense policies, particularly, to effectively safeguard its national security and maintain stability in the region?
Well, Japan has been working very closely with ASEAN countries, which is important but also a challenge. The ASEAN has proven from time to time to be not very effective in putting up a united front against China's assertive behavior. And this is most visible in the South China Sea, where a member country, Cambodia, as chair of the annual ASEAN meeting, set aside the issue of South China Sea from the agenda of the meeting. And Cambodia basically worked as if it's a proxy of China. And this kind of ASEAN as an institution's shortcomings has been a major challenge. But Japan still places ASEAN as its center of its approach to Southeast Asia. So in various documents Japan issues, Japan always mentions the importance of ASEAN centrality for security cooperation in this region, and that's inclusive of the mechanisms including ASEAN plus 3, which includes China, and also East Asia Summit, which also include the US, Australia, and other countries. So continued approach through ASEAN, but Japan's also approaching individual Southeast Asian countries as well on the side. And Japan's doing it cautiously, because if Japan moves too fast, too far, that will threaten ASEAN centrality, and some of the ASEAN member countries feel alerted by Japan's diplomatic move. But having said that, Japan has signed a strategic partnership with Vietnam and with the Philippines, and lately the Philippines is willing to go beyond bilateral with Japan, and taking part in the quadrilateral maritime defense exercise together with US, Australia, and Japan. And there's a discussion about the four countries, the meeting of defense ministers in the future as well. So all of those point to Japan's increasing willingness to accommodate bilateral approaches with individual Southeast Asian countries in its overall the security policy towards Southeast Asia.
That's true, sir. And totally agree with your pointers. So looking ahead, as you have rightly mentioned that, and we look forward to the recent statement and affirmation by our External Affairs Minister, Sri S. Jaishankar, recognizing Japan as a natural partner in India's strategic and development objectives within the Indo-Pacific region. Can you throw some light on the strategic implications of this enhanced partnership with the Quad framework, and what do you foresee as the potential challenge when it comes to, and the opportunities as well, when it comes for the Japan and India in harnessing their alliance to achieve their shared and regional objectives?
Okay. The security of the Indian Ocean region is of common interest between Japan and India. Yeah. And in the past, when India was still not developed, the U.S. Navy was primary security guarantor of the Indo-Pacific region. But today, the relative weight of U.S. military strength is on declining course, and India's weight will undoubtedly grow in this region and perhaps beyond. So in that sense, working with India is very important for Japan, and India also sees that Japan is the most preferred partner, and for several reasons. One, India and Japan have had very good relationship even throughout the Cold War period, and two, Japan doesn't have any kind of the British colonial connotation. So that's good compared to Australia, and more capabilities than Australia, and it's not as threatening as the U.S. And also the dominance of U.S. would go against the India's inclination toward more non-aligned diplomatic autonomy. So in order to have a diversified yet networked presence of multiple countries, including Japan, in the Indian Ocean region, collectively balancing against China is an ideal format for India, in my view.
Thank you so much, sir. And for these profound insights, it's really clear that Japan's role in the Indo-Pacific is both strategic and holistic, aiming for a balance of power that fosters peace and prosperity in totality. So, thank you so much for giving your time, and thank you for the insightful session and making all us aware of the Japan ASEAN relation and the correlation to each of this. So, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in, and join us next time for more discussions that shape our understanding of the world today. This is Sakshi Shree signing off. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.